There's one more case we ought to think through as we talk about market-based, or what I call incentive-based regulation of pollution. And that's the auction permit. And we can use our simple example of Gene Burke and Brown Water Services in Appleton, Wisconsin to get at that. So let's suppose that the authorities want to reduce pollution in the Fox River by selling permits. And the way they're going to run this auction is that they start at a price of zero, so they're starting by just giving permits away at a price of zero, and then they're going to keep raising the price by $1, and they're going to keep raising the price until exactly 4 permits are demanded. And just to remind you, the marginal costs of cleanup tells us the firm's willingness to pay. Oh, I see I had a typo there. That's supposed to be a comma. So the Brown Water has to pay 100 more per month to clean up 1 ton of glop, would have to pay another 400 a month to clean up a 2nd ton of glop, and would have to pay another 1,000 a month beyond that to clean up a 3rd ton of glop, and to run purely cleanly without producing any glop, they'd have to spend another $2,000 a month to do that. The marginal cleanup costs for, Joanne Burke, not Gene Burke, 1,000 for the 1st ton, sorry. 1,500 for the 2nd permit, for the 2nd ton of glop cleaned up. I confused them because the marginal cost of cleaning up the ton of glop also tells us the willingness to pay for a permit to avoid having to clean up that ton of glop. Then it goes up to $2,500, the cost of cleaning up 1 more ton of glop, and finally that last ton cleanup comes really dear at $5,000 per ton cleaned up. All right, so if we start at 0 and raise the price, let me use a different color pen just to distinguish between the marginal cost analysis and thinking about this auction. At a price of $1, say, how many permits would be demanded? Well, a firm would rather buy a permit than clean up if the permit's cheaper than cleaning up. And at a price of $1, even for that cheapest ton to clean up, that 1st ton by Brown Water cost $100 to clean up. Well, they'd rather buy a permit for 1 than pay to clean up a ton for $100. So the price is going to have to get up to $101, say, before we can be sure that Brown Water is going to clean up 1 ton of glop. At a price of $100, they'd flip a coin, and so our expected value of their cleanup would be half a ton, right? Probability 1/2 they buy the permit, probability 1/2 they clean up. So $101 they clean up that 1st ton, but notice that there's still 7 permits demanded. Now at $101, Brown Water demands 1, 2, 3 permits, and Joanne Burke demands 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 permits. So that price is still going to have to go up. Well, it's going to get to 401 before a 2nd ton will be cleaned up for sure. And so we still have 6 permits demanded. That price is going to have to rise up. How far is it going to have to go? Notice that the Brown Water would clean up if the 1 extra ton, the 3rd ton cleaned up, if the price of a permit exceeded $1,000 per ton or per permit. Each permit allows 1 ton, and actually at a price over $1,000. Joanne Burke would be interested in 1 permit. So when the price hits $1,001 per permit, then we're going to see Brown Water is going to demand just 1 permit, and that means they're going to clean up 3 tons. So they're going to operate on this process where they're just emitting 1 ton of glop, and then Joanne Burke is going to buy 3 permits, and that's going to allow them to just have to clean up 1 ton. So they're going to be operating at this process that costs them $11,000 a month. So notice that in this auction permit case, we get the same outcome as when we just gave each firm 2 permits and let them trade without telling them who's the buyer, who's the seller. They can work that out in the market. Notice that a tax of $1,000 and $1,001 is how we say that in English. $1,001 per permit, or if it were a tax, it would be $1,001 per ton emitted. That would motivate cleanup of exactly 4 tons, and indeed that cleanup would be distributed where to the point where Brown Water would clean up 3 tons and Joanne Burke would clean up 1 ton. All right, well that's a really important case. Study that carefully. I forgot to remind you to stop it and try to work out the problem yourself. That was my bad. Hopefully you did that by instinct. Good luck.